final session. And let me tell you, we've got so much in store for you. And it starts off with an amazing woman who I'd like to also call my friend. She's also a publisher, and her name is Karen McDermott. Karen is the founder of Serenity Press, MMH Press, KMD Books, and the Everything Publishing Academy. She's also an award-winning entrepreneur, multi-genre author of over 40 books, a mentor and TEDx speaker. And you know what really touches my heart is that she's a proud mom of 6. Honestly speaking, I don't know how Karen does it, and I think she'll share on some of that, you know, and give other moms advice, because, you know, we're talking about women in leadership, and we know that it's hard, you know, balancing work and family. And Karen, kudos to you. You're an inspiration, and, you know, I'm so happy to have you on this platform as a mom, and you representing the moms that are struggling in the workplace, you know, and the platform is yours.
Thank you so much, Hazel, and hello everyone. And I am just enjoying all of the amazing, delicious insights I'm getting from everyone and the amazing stories. Yes, I am all about being a very hands-on mum of 6 kids from 6 to 25, 2 boys and then 4 girls. So what we're talking about here today is really important, because we're paving the way for our girls who are coming through and their children, and making a change by coming together. And I am all about the power of story, to connect, to heal, to educate, to inspire. And the reason why I really am passionate about stories, because in 2010 I had this huge call that I could not ignore to write my story, and I wrote my first novel then. And yes, I am an author of 40 books and an accidental publisher, I call myself, because I did not intend to become a publisher. My studies are actually in humanities, but I did go through a dark time in my life, and I always wanted to know why did this happen to me? Because I was always a bright, outgoing person. And then I had an epiphany. And then, because I want to share anything I ever discover in life with others, because I believe that we learn things to share with others. I got the call to write a book, and I wrote a novel weaving my story into it in 30 days during NaNoWriMo, which is Novel Writing Month that happens every November. And I had 4 children at the time. My youngest was 4 weeks old. Whilst breastfeeding her, I used my other hand to type into the computer. The story just took over. And I never overthought it. I just got on with it. I didn't compare myself to other writers. I really was not good at English in school because I just didn't engage with my teachers and things. But I didn't let that become a barrier, because I was on a mission. I had a message to share. And I believe I've been on a mission ever since, because that novel got published, and it wasn't a positive publishing experience. And but I learned a lot. And at the beginning of that book was a quote that I wrote that said, "From every negative situation is the potential for a positive outcome." And so I took the essence of that quote and I said, okay, this may not have been a positive experience, but what did I get from it? And I learned, and I'd done a bit more research, and I discovered that the print and distribution channel that my publisher had used had opened up an office in Melbourne that very month. And so I applied to become a publisher. I made a sacred promise to myself that if I got accepted, I would help people share their stories in the world, because in a positive way. And I have been doing that ever since, and I've helped, I believe, over 400 authors. I love going on the journey. It's a privilege to join an author on a journey to share their story, because it's such an evolutionary process. We all learn a lot about ourselves. We all have different blocks. Writing our story, going through the editing process, going then to the publishing process, which you know about, Hazel. You know that it is a journey, and one that's not to be taken for granted whatsoever. I'm also a great believer in the time and circumstance aligned magic happens. I'm all about magic. That's why I love the gold dust that was being talked about earlier. And but I like to know things. I like knowledge because I believe knowledge is power. Because when we know, then we equip and then we eradicate any type of fear that we have around things, because we're able to make decisions with unwavering faith. That they are aligned with our values, and we can set powerful intentions with that, and I set big fat intentions. They're not small things, but I never compromise on my values, which is to be a very present mum. And it was just something that's really important to me. So I always experience joy, and joy for me is one of the biggest components of success, because when you are enjoying the journey, you will never fail. Success is inevitable. So that I prioritize joy very highly. And I write, as you said, a lot of books, and I kept being asked, how do you do it? You're always so, you make amazing things happen. You're really, hands-on mum of 6. Like, I used to do it all in publishing when I started my business, but then I grew, and now I have an amazing team. So I'm able to do that very important thing that Kathy DeMarcus talked about earlier on, to stay in my zone of genius, which is being able to, delegate what doesn't light me up so much. Because in business, there's all different facets. And I'm able to stay in my zone of genius, which is connecting with authors, joining with them on the journey, and making big things happen, because there's publishing is just such a wonderful, journey to be on with people. And you can make amazing things happen for your business or just for your personal life, because sharing your story and becoming an author comes with authority. And the reason the word author is in authority, because it gets you visible in front of people. It gives you a leading edge against other brands. And whenever you collaborate with others with your story, like we've heard some stories today that, for me personally, I want to take action to help. Was it Lumbe, and that story of the water, like something we take for granted, just turning on a tap and drinking a glass of water. Like, this should not be happening in this day and age. A whole day wasted just to get some clean water. Like, wow, it should be so much easier than that. And that makes me want to take action to help, because I'm in a privileged position to do that. So just with the whole, I know I was here to talk about harnessing your story, but I shared my story to share that we all have a story. It's like our own fingerprint, because there's no two stories that are the same. But when we show up and own our story, it's like we are, putting ourselves out there. It takes some courage. You need to dust away a few inhibitions. But when you do, the rewards are just, you're connecting with people, deeper connections. People learn to trust you more because you're showing up as yourself. You're not putting on any kind of mask. You're just sharing yourself. And, vulnerability is something that people talk about, but it's just owning your story and sharing it with others is a very important part of others, I feel. And so that's why I answered the call to share my story and answered the call to help others share theirs as well. And as for the juggle, the juggle, or the blend that I call it, well, my business and what I've created from the seedling of an idea that popped into my head, that I wanted to build $1 million publishing business and help people share their stories. Because the more that I generate income, the more I can do to help others as well. Because when good people get money, good things can happen. And I'm a good person, and so I always make sure that good things happen. And that's why we need to invest in women, is because women do that. I see it so much, with the work, there's always a mission behind. Quite often, there's always a mission behind a business that woman has founded, and there's always goodness that comes from that. So that is probably the humanities part of me, where my studies are in humanities. I always want something good to come along from it, and I don't keep anything to myself. I share it, and I bring everyone along for the ride. I overshare in my socials. If I do something that might inspire somebody else or educate somebody to do something and ignite something from themselves, I'm going to share it, because we learn from each other. We learn from our experiences, and I'm not going to dim my light just so that, you know, if you want to do it, you can do it too, because there's no real excuse. If I can do it as a mum of six, and a very present mum of six, then you can as well. Okay, Hazel?
Is it a blood problem? I want to
Hazel's
remind
muted.
you that God is going to give you a new heart in the mighty name of Jesus. If that organ cannot be repaired, God is going to replace it in the mighty name of Jesus.
We're hearing a story. I think it's Miriam is not
Yeah.
muted. There we go.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I'd actually muted it. I don't know what happened there. Okay, thank you so much, Karen, for sharing that. And I do agree with you. We should never compromise on our values. We should always prioritize joy and author, the authority, in authority. Thank you so much, Karen. And so we're going to move on to the next speaker. And we're moving on to Hilda Johani. And Hilda's coming all the way from the United Kingdom. I'll share a bit more about Hilda. Hilda is a self-made entrepreneur who started an early business life in Birmingham, UK, with the establishment of an accountancy business in 2007. She is the HBBB. Sorry, I'm just going to pause and just see what's happening here with this. Yes, so I don't want Hilda's session to be interrupted. And yeah, sorry. Sorry, I've just had to remove Hilda there. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. Moving on, we'd like to just move on with our next speaker, Hilda Giovanni. She's all the way from the United Kingdom, and she's a self-made entrepreneur who started her business early in life. She's from Birmingham, UK. She's established an accountancy called HBBA. Hilda, good morning, actually. It's late there in the United Kingdom.
Yes, it is early hours of the morning, nearly 4 a.m. Thank you so much, Hazel, and for Herrington Publications Worldwide for creating this platform that is helping us increase our net worth through our networks, and hopefully the participants are going to be able to come up with plans of action based on what you can take from our participants. It's been an amazing journey from the first speaker up till now. Karen, thank you. And when I pick up the keywords that my predecessors have said, you know, like play, fast forward, Kathy, I love those visuals. Gold dust, superannurships, you know, lack of access to basic needs. Motherhood, a key one, Karen, and how all that blends. You know, I just want to probably introduce another button, and that is the pause button. And maybe this will allow me to sort of like blend it into what my presentation is all about. So let's talk about the here and now. It's 2021 and the world is opening up again after the wave of the great global pandemic. There's been loads of government loans that have been issued in the USA, Canada, and in the United Kingdom, and repayments were pushed to beyond 12 months interest fee. But did anybody actually go into the fact that too much borrowing can have negative impact on a company? We have some businesses that have completely stopped, some that have liquidated and cannot trade due to the pandemic. But do we understand the key terms of liquidations and bankruptcy? And most importantly, how do we steer away from this? People, let me draw your attention to one major barrier and bias that women face in the mix of this. And are you ready for this? It's financial illiteracy. Let's talk about the face of most businesses now. What is the financial outlook of most businesses now after the wave of events? My personal experience drawing from the accountancy side of one of my companies, we have companies in certain sectors turning over millions of pounds, but, and I'm sure the same is in the USA, but what is the actual bottom line? Because there is, like a lot of us ladies, all of us are in business here. We're doing it, we're doing it, we're doing it. But what are our bottom lines looking like? Do we understand what our financial figures mean? Or is it the job of our accountants or your finance directors? An interesting note that one of the statistics presented here is that women cannot access venture capitalist funding, but venture capitalists are people who are investors, and you need to demonstrate that you're good for it. So now the problem is a lot of women, because of financial illiteracy, you do not present your figures well enough to be able to tick those boxes to attract the venture capitalists. There is a venture capitalist firm I know that one of the key questions that they ask when they're assessing someone for finance, they'll ask you, have you lost £1 million before? Or have you lost $1 million? And if the answer is no, they'll say, go back. Most likely, if we give you our money, you'll probably lose it again. Sadly enough, basic financial literacy is not just down to education, but it may be down to mindset and exposure of women at different levels. If you've read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, you can understand that these dynamics are not just prevalent in the American society, but are global, that sometimes too much emphasis is placed on academic achievement and not empowering individuals to apply practical aspects of money and daily living and entrepreneurship. I'll give you an example. For a woman entrepreneur or for another sitting on a board level, do you actually understand what the implications of current financial statements, what they mean? Or can you use those statements or figures to predict this is where you are now, this is where you need to get to, and this is how you get there? Can we apply financial concept to our businesses to be able to map that way? The fact that there's fewer representations of women at boardroom level, despite the problem of financial illiteracy, financial illiteracy is not just a women's problem. Men have it at all as well, but the gender inequalities actually highlight more as women having those differences or those inequalities more than men. I listened to something the other day where a woman was going for a very high-powered solicitor's job. And she said that one of the interview questions was, do you intend to have any more children? Now, what was the relevance of that question? Do you think that the male counterpart was asked that similar question? I'll leave you to ponder on that one. Our mother's generation, the boomers, as we may call them, are women who pushed through and fought hard to be able to work even, and some of them even had to lie to say they didn't have children so that they would remove that barrier of saying, oh, because you have children, you're not able to go to work. Many of this generation, along with my mum, had gone through immense barriers and pushed through the system to be able to work. I'm proud to say that my mom later retired at 55 and she's 72 now. Now, drawing back onto another personal experience as a divorced lone parent in this present age, other married women have often remarked that I have the time to do all I can in business because I haven't got anybody who stops me. There are cultural biases and schools of thought that believe that outspoken, clever women are not the marrying kind, but it's the quiet ones who do not ask questions that are best put in the kitchens. I understand that some married women are afraid to shine, as this can be intimidating to their males. Is this true? Studies have also shown that there is a gender bias between men and women, and that women can choose love over money, and men will choose money over love. Is that true? this analogy now draws to the fact and to the question, to what extent is mindset a barrier to us as women in leadership? Are women's mindset more prolific as compared to the mindset of men? Women's minds have a growth potential that can be, if channeled correctly, can be very beneficial to mankind. There's an African saying that if you educate a woman, you educate an entire village. So why can't the world put resources more towards educating of women? So this generation of women may come across as very confident, but they may lack the confidence to actually go for the jobs that they want to, go for the business opportunities that they should. But you'd find that this generation has focused on education and thereby fulfilling the bureaucratic positions that are in society, as discussed in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book again. We are the workers, but our roles are woven into complicated stratified structures in society that sometimes we are mere cogs in a wheel. Arise, women, embrace other women like those on this platform, and engage us through mindset coaching, training, and filling those skills gaps. Become more financially aware and learn how to make money make more sense for you. Find a mentor, even contact me, and I can help you overcome these barriers and to rise to leadership. In conclusion,
you can
take charge of your own circumstances and begin a plan of change for your life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hilda. Your presentation was so inspiring, and I'll tell you why. Not to say that all the other speakers were not inspiring, because everybody's coming with their own view of, women in leadership, barriers and bias. You touched on something that really, I use the word ministered to me. You talked about outspoken women, cultural biases, in that women who are outspoken are unmarriable. For 1 minute, I want you to speak into your camera and encourage those women, because this is prevalent in Africa. And I know you're from Zimbabwe.
Right. I think I always draw from the example of even Lady Diana. Despite being on a platform of being the Princess of Wales, she still found time to come to Zimbabwe to visit the sick, to work with children's homes with the then Sally Mugabe. But at the moment, I would just like to encourage you to say, do not be afraid to take a step and be what you want to be, and do not look at anybody who might be a barrier to you. Because the steps you're taking are not for your spouse. They are mostly sometimes for your children. Because your children are the ones who are watching. You set the platform, you set the limit of where they can go due to your own limitations. So do not be influenced. And I would say that if you have to compromise and find yourself in a situation where you have to put yourself in a box to suit, think again. There is a big world out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hilda. Inspirational. And we're moving on to our next speaker. We have the amazing Narelle Fleming. Narelle is based in Australia. She's the founder of Slap That Ball, and she's also a business coach who teaches women not only how to start and grow their business, but also does personal development courses. Narelle, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you so much, Hazel, and thank you so much, ladies, for all of your messages. It's amazing. I want to start by asking you a question. Have you ever looked at someone, or you've met somebody and you've judged them pretty harshly on the way that they've looked, or perhaps their behavior or their attitude, only to hear their story and then feel compassion and empathy for them? We don't see things the way that they are. We see things the way we are. Have we ever considered that perhaps one of our barriers to our impact and our influence as women are ourselves and our judgment towards one another. I'd like to share how a breakthrough in our thinking can revolutionize our impact and our influence, and the responsibility that we have to leave a legacy for the next generation of women leaders. Leaders create leaders, and mindset matters. So hands up, who's ever experienced some challenges in relationships with other women? Yep, most of us. And for me, it's resulted in some missed opportunities for great relationships, collaboration, and the opportunity to create a platform for our future women leaders. Taking responsibility for our own bias is absolutely essential. And what do I mean by this? Well, our perceptions and our judgments of ourselves and others are based on our bias of our existing values, beliefs, and experiences. And if we take responsibility for changing our biases, then we create breakthrough, which means that there'll be less rivalry, less gossip, and less nastiness towards those who dare to lead. Imagine this kind of freedom from the bias and the barriers. I'm going to share with you 3 profound principles that I've used to break through my own insecurities to now have the life, the love, the business, and the influence that I have today. And those 3 profound principles are edification, encouragement, and elevation. One of our core needs as a human is the need to belong. Unfortunately, growing up, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I don't know about you, but school was extremely challenging emotionally. Most of the days were spent in the toilet crying because I was bullied and even physically threatened. And as a result, I actually dropped out of school thinking that if I got a real job in the real world, things would be different, but they weren't. I was gossiped about, I was left out of social events and ignored. And I created in me beliefs that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't worth anyone's time, so I don't belong. I actually turned to drinking, drugs, and men to get my acceptance, but this only resulted in more rejection, more shame, and a spiral of negative self-confidence. My self-confidence was so bad that I used to move every 6 to 12 months because I thought people didn't like me anymore. This had a massive effect on my marriage and my children. I met my husband when I was 20, and by the age of 24, I had 3 children. We barely knew each other. I had no friends and no family support around me. And within 7 years of our relationship, we were at risk of separating. My emotional pain had turned into physical stomach pain, fibromyalgia, and chronic fatigue. And this affected all of my opportunities to keep a job. I've been a chef, a makeup artist, a youth worker, a trainer, a manager. But in the end, I had to find a way to create income around sleeping and bouts of pain, which is when I came into business. However, my negative bias caused me to feel like business is way too hard. And my fear of not being liked impacted my ability to develop and lead a team. So this led to my very first profound principle, edification. So edification actually means to teach someone in a way that improves their mind or their character. I can remember the very first time I stood up and presented in a room full of my peers. With all the confidence I could muster, with the passion and determination, I delivered my message. The very next day, nobody said anything. However, my thoughts were, you look like an idiot. You shouldn't have said that. That's wrong what you said. And I actually ended up having an emotional breakdown. My insecurities were my own bias. And on that day, I made a decision. I made a decision to tear down whatever barrier was going to prevent me from being a positive influence within the world. This was the moment that I became really curious about who I am and why I behaved the way that I behaved. And the first thing I did was to seek out someone who could edify me, someone who could teach me to improve my mindset and my character. The second profound principle is encouragement. So many of us, we look for encouragement and motivation from others around about us. And when we don't get it, we give up or we just don't take any action. In the beginning, I didn't have many people to draw my encouragement from, and so I had to learn to encourage myself. I developed the courage to go back to study, and now I hold 8 qualifications. I developed the courage to rebuild my family, write a book, start a business, become a leader and an encourager of others. Learning to speak encouragement over my own life taught me how valuable it is to speak encouragement over others. Because when we focus on encouragement, then there's less rivalry that leads to the bias and the barriers, and gives rise to the opportunity to create a better relationships for a better future. The final profound principle is elevation. And when it comes to business and leadership, I want to encourage us to have a spirit of lifting one another up. Often we compare ourselves to each other and can become quite jealous of others' successes, or even frustrated when we're not even experiencing the success in our own lives. As a result, we tend to tear down those who are, or even worse, we tear down ourselves. A spirit of elevation means to celebrate, to honor, and to uplift. Without elevation, the only option is descend. And that's why I moved house and changed career, became sick, and I nearly walked out of my family. All that was missing was for me to recognize and to celebrate myself and my own talents and how far I'd come from what I'd learned through edification and encouraging. The higher we elevate ourselves and each other, the higher the status of women is elevated in the world, creating a way forward for greater impact and influence. And as I close, I want to invite you to consider that we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. And for there to be a change in the status of women entrepreneurs and leaders, we need to take responsibility for who we are. If we consider the bias we have to our own existing beliefs, values, perceptions of ourselves and of each other, and we practice edification, encouragement, and elevation, then we open up the opportunity for some extraordinary relationships and collaboration. Now is the time to come together. Collectively, we have the power to define the status of women in leadership for the generations to come. If not us, then who? And if not now, when? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Narelle.
Hazel, my sincere apology. I'm intervening here. I couldn't stop myself. Narelle, with folded hands, thanks a lot to you. I could see that emotion and passion in you as a lady of the world. Okay. I would like to International Academy of Entrepreneurship and Employability would like to sign it up with you to write book and books in times to come, wherein all the royalties of those books will go to only to you and to your enterprise. Thank you, Hazel. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijay, for opening that massive door for Narelle. And that's what this platform is all about. It's about elevating, educating, and empowering women. So keep watching. There's going to be a lot of surprises coming up. Thank you so much, Narelle. That was inspirational. Wow, that testimony. I had a few tears in my eyes.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So now we're moving on to our next speaker, Dr. Fahmida, who is a good friend of mine. I've spoken on a platform. She has a massive platform in India. She invites speakers to speak on her platform on the same issues, gender equality, leadership. And if anything, she's always looking to empower me, emailing me, Hazel, what can we do for you today? I mean, she's always sending me documentation, marketing material. Dr. Fahmida, how are you this afternoon? The platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Hazel. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Wonderful. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I think more than me being a part of this, being an audience and witnessing such great insights. Thank you, Narelle. That was one enlightening speech. And thank you, ladies, for having me here. To begin with, the very term barriers and biases, I think, commenced from the magnifying glory of this world, the gender. the term women, female, feminine itself entails extensive restrictions from the time-honored and customary beliefs that we have carried as the true purpose of woman. What are we? Caretakers and venerators. And we cannot be substituted by any other way. Having stated that, despite this particular myth has been demystified through collaborative efforts, it is disappointing that so many routes have been taken by the opposite gender, by a very small minority group of the opposite gender, rather perceiving us to have and to be given less opportunities. Now, here, it's quite pivotal to understand whether we are going to wait for the opportunity or embrace the opportunity and harness the true potential of worthy female candidates who can actually make a positive difference, contributing to socio-economical aspects within the mainstream. Effective leadership, as I have always believed, has no correlation to the factor of gender. It is true that males have been performing quite well in top ranks and have managed to sustain, but the globe and management themselves have come up with theories, I don't know whether it's consciously or unconsciously done, giving the benefit of doubt to them. I would rather state it as a conscious decision to bring in transformative values into leadership roles. Lead from within, lead with heart, lead with love, promoting the entire well-being of this ecosystem of life. Recruiters and people managers actually have clearly understood the need for women leadership for the sustainable success of an organization. Now, how can that be? The guarantee of employee dedication, commitment that it has for a stable and steady success, that the need for stakeholders to be valued and treated with respect instead of controlled through authority, which then warrants effective communication, leading by example, being optimistic and open-minded. All these to demonstrate the very value of integrity. Now, these, once again, translate to the truest and noble qualities of a leader who shall set sail towards a victory. Where were these attributes derived from? It was from the blend of emotion and ration, emotional and rational beings themselves. If true leadership is the definite advocacy that leaders create leaders, as Narelle beautifully articulated, leaders do empower leaders too. Leaders pave the way for collaborative work and keep the team together. Now, let me raise my voice loud and confirm that this is what we as women, as mothers, sisters, wives, have been demonstrating. Well, yes, we do flaunt our crown of being the creators of life, but we are the prime movers of unity, the architects of human value, the engineers of life journey, and the instigators of love, compassion, and everlasting bond. Which of this sounds less like a leader? We are indeed leaders. Roles, thus, have to be defined based on the level of impact and influence it has on the overall success of every stakeholder. Forget about stakeholders in corporate settings. We have diverse personalities within our own house. And whatever leadership role that we have taken, it has to be perceived, no more male or female. Because I reinstate, gender has no direct correlation to the effective leadership that we all seek. How well can you create a difference? Beyond that fear and doubt instilled in us, we women have to believe in ourselves. The beautiful, profound principles of Narelle, edification, encouragement, and elevation. Let me put the cherry on top, the empowerment. The component of empowerment has to be there. Prior to defining the landscape of business and life, let me understand whether we have got the original definition of women empowerment. What is this all about? Women empowerment is often perplexed with feminism when perceived from third-party perspective. Now, that they need to do everything that men are able to do. We need to have equal rights, do whatever they have. They say no, we say no. No. No, ladies and gentlemen. There are things that men can do. There are things that women can do. The significant change when brought together is what complements. Well, weren't we, female, Adam and Eve, or any other religious theories that are brought together, weren't we brought to this virgin planet to magnify its glory through our physical and intellectual bond, to shower this planet with love and life? Thus, answering my own question, women empowerment is to ride besides all, to be an important factor in the equation of life, while not hiding behind any factor that shall recede our own capabilities and abilities. The evocative revelation therefore is, have we understood how much we women are important in the pivotal nature of life? It is a process of self-actualization to delve deeper into our inner being and understand our true purpose and illuminate ourselves and others with that light that shines within. Now, as we have addressed on the surface the component of self-empowerment, the true purpose, let's broaden and deepen our perspectives to answer the million-dollar question. How can we maneuver with such sentiments in a society that favors and privileges men? Please do join me to shed light on the biggest revelation that men have been proven to be tempered radicals, where they have raised their opinions and strictly opposed discrimination while being attentive to their own success. Well, I do have an incandescent example right with me. Vijay, thank you for that. Many men I closely work, affiliate, and associate with in professional and personal capacity have been sincere advocates of women empowerment and believe that our presence is exceedingly warranted, not only within four walls, but within the mainstream itself. Beyond everything, I think it is our fundamental right: think, believe, act. And these three actions can never be confined to gender. From fighting for women's rights, the starting line of the race has begun to protect and nurture the well-being of both gender inequality. Woman and man both need the freedom to dream. Both need the freedom to inspire and be inspired by each other. That meaningful, influential, impactful personalities together, collaborated in their own unique ways. I think it's time that we accept that we, mankind, and each and every person present in this forum are a multitude of personalities with their own goals. While supporting our beliefs, I think it's time to support each other, because together we can go fly higher. Once again, the quote of Naila Kazi. Winners and women leaders are not seekers of opportunities, we create opportunities. And I do even have to raise the question of whether we are a winner. Of course we are. All of us are here because of a woman who's busy cooking in the kitchen for me while I'm presenting here. Indeed we are. The most complicated management theory, ladies and gentlemen, is the conspiracy of a household, where the realization of life being a roller coaster actually emerges from. So keep talking, keep communicating louder so that you are heard. Discuss when you feel your opinions need to be considered. Bow down not with fear, but with humility. Equity, as we all know, is an element that sustains gender harmony. And we do stand for harmony ourselves. Let us extend the love as we bear as mothers and lead with love, lead from within, as even Tony Robbins, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs have come to a conclusion that leadership begins with self. Enough of demanding respect. Start respecting yourself. The rest will flow. Empower yourselves. When you take self-accountability for your personal and professional development, not only do you create a new journey of life, but you are able to inspire, influence, and impact many others who will follow your lead. Remember, our purpose, your purpose is not to find others, it's to find yourself, the very why of your birth. a simple yet beautiful quote I would like to conclude with from an unknown philosopher that states, "Be the woman that a man needs, that the world needs, not what you need." Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Back to you, Hazel.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fahmida. That was an inspirational presentation. And I agree with you. We need to discover our true purpose. And one thing I love about you, Dr. Fahmida, is that you are authentic. You don't want to be a copy of anybody. For me, I always look at you like as a philosopher, you know, always telling me different genres of leadership. Thank you so much for being your true authentic self and for empowering other women to be their true authentic self as well and to discover their purpose. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the third panel session. We move over to our fourth and final panel session, where we will have Monifer Robinson Groover, Charu Mehrotra, and Sarah Blake.